a perceived threat. There is a perceived threat from China. So all these 4 countries are discussing, and it's not the first time, my friends, it's been happening over a period of time. So he's doing something very important for security. And here, you're also doing something very important for security. And I wouldn't like to say you are any less important than the senior people sitting there. You're very important for the country today, seriously. Not many of you would realize, but you're playing an important role for the nation, because just yesterday we got the numbers that the loss to the economy is almost something to the tune of 70,000 crores, thanks to cyber attacks. So keeping the statistics aside, in the last few years, there have been discussions at World Economic Forum. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to attend World Economic Forum. So in the year 2017, 16, they would go and say that, look, wars are not fought just on the borders of countries. The wars is not about just missiles, nuclear warfare, bio-warfare or anything, but wars are also about economy, economics, it's about trade, it's about commerce. So they used to argue that you want to kill a country, you can do it through your planning of your trade and commerce. So wars, you understand, today we are talking about cyber warfare. One is the physical warfare, where people actually attack you with missiles, etc. Now the other one is the economic warfare, where you get into trade pacts. So the country you like, let's say if you like a country, you get into trade treaties, trade pacts. You're very friendly with them. You do all the good things for them. Supposing you don't like a country, you can have sanctions against the country. You will say that we will not trade with you. We will impose sanctions, or we will put your import fee very high. So the point is, you can actually make a country come down to its knees through your trade policies. So that is one. So one is the physical warfare, the trade warfare. Third one is the cyber war, which is more dangerous. It's unpredictable. It can happen anytime. You have no control. So you are dealing with that. So you're perhaps the most important people that the country has to respect. I'll give you about 2 or 3 simple examples of my own experience of having seen how things pan out, especially in any of these attacks. The first thing that you should be aware of as CISOs is what we call as situational awareness. Now, don't even underestimate what we call as situational awareness. Don't even underestimate how important it is to be hyper vigilant. You have to be hyper vigilant. I'll give an example. This is nothing to do with cyber security per se, but you have to be vigilant because in the year 1997, the magazine called Economist came out with a story on India, and the story read, Epic Story of Wasted Promise. India, an epic story of wasted promise. So people were wondering, what is this all about? At that point in time, all the Southeast Asian nations like Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of them surged ahead and became, Asian Cup, economies growing with double-digit, growth, whereas India was stuck at single-digit. And so economists thought India is not growing very well, so they've written this article, completely saying that India is no good at all. Why did that happen? India was not vigilant. Please pay attention. This is very important. At that point in time, India was not vigilant. We were not paying attention to what is happening in the world. The world at the point in time was actually urbanizing furiously. Globalization, urbanization, industrialization was happening, and India just remained very silent and non-responsive All of them capitalized and then started making a lot of money. They grew because we were not vigilant, we were not alert. Unfortunately, we also missed out something called the third industrial revolution. Some of you would know, in which industrial revolution are we today? We are in the fourth industrial revolution. So fourth industrial revolution is about artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, IoT, AR, VR. These are the things that we're talking about. This is disruptive technologies and we are today experiencing them. But we missed the third industrial revolution. What was third industrial revolution? It was about gadgets, it's about computers, it's about smartphones. We missed everything. You know why? Because India was not aware. So all these economies, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, all of them started manufacturing and India started importing them. We were paradoxically became the marketplace for that. So the first point is, as CISOs, you have to be hyper vigilant. Remember that. The second thing that I'd like to say is these are my experiences from my work. We saw that in United States, one of the cities experienced a very bad contamination of water. Water was contaminated beyond unbelievable levels. And when we actually did the case study much, much later, we discovered that, again, it is a breach, and pay attention to why that breach happened. At that point in time, the water utility was using technology. It's like the operational technology, but the information technology guys came and said, let's integrate OT and IT. And when this was happening, the system gets vulnerable. I think you know that vulnerability happens when you try to do that at the point in time. So big data was flourishing at that time. So they were looking at data, like, data coming in huge volumes, velocity, variety. So all of them were trying to address that, and the breach happened. When you are not vigilant, when you are trying to integrate OT and IT, the breach happened and they lost. There's another last example that I'd like to give from Germany. In Germany, there was a big blackout. I'm talking about example like 13, 15 years ago. Why did that happen? Germany was perhaps the first country in the world to have really looked at smart electrification. So they were preparing smart grids. So at that time, they were infusing grid with technology, modernization. They were using SCADA, GIS, IoT, ERP. They were trying everything. And at the point in time, they had a difficulty. When they were busy looking at modernization, the hackers were busy attacking because you were not vigilant. So these are things that you learn as you grow, because each of your sectors, I'm sure, when you try to modernize, when you want to get new automation into place, when you get super busy, you will be attacked. And it's quite a commonplace thing that might happen. So these are 3 examples. One is you have to be hyper vigilant, you have to be very careful when you're looking at integration of IT and OT. And the third thing is when you're trying to modernize and move to the next level, you're busy doing that, and then there's hacking that can happen. Someone can actually breach everything. So be a little vigilant. Now let me move to the second part of what I'd like to say. This is about the role of CISOs. So typically people look at CISOs, and I know how they consider themselves to be important people, but I wish that you'll start looking at yourself as more like leaders. How many of you believe you are, other than technical skills, you have exceptional leadership skills? It's a bad question to ask, but how many of you believe you are, yeah. I'll tell you why. It's important to look at yourself as a big-time leader, yes. Because only when a CISO believes he's a leader can he negotiate with the board and get all the budgets that he wants. Only when a CISO believes he's a leader, he can cajole, coax, negotiate with the board to get more competencies in place. Maybe even demand have an advisor at the board level, or maybe even push the board to develop those competencies. You can do it only when you're speaking like a leader. The other thing is, only if you're a leader can you penetrate to all levels in the organization and tell them that security is everybody's business, isn't it? Just a lazy person just, can actually allow a breach to happen. Someone who doesn't comply. So how do you get everybody to believe that security is everybody's business? Only when you are a leadership material. How can you build a security culture? Culture building is not an easy thing. Again, you have to really be extraordinarily smart. The last and the important thing that I'd like to say is when you are to get your agenda forward, you have to act as if the threat is outside the door. The threat is outside the door. Now please pay attention to this. I remember in 2015, I was invited by Mr. Lawrence Wong. Who's Mr. Lawrence Wong? He's the Prime Minister of Singapore. He's the current Prime Minister of Singapore, but when he invited me, he was the Environment Minister. He invited me to give a keynote in Singapore, and when I went there to address, it was a huge hall with 1,000 people, minimum 1,000 people being seated, and all of them were wearing white shirts, clean white shirts. Not a single person was in a suit like this. And why did that happen? That happened because Mr. Wong told all of them, you please come in white shirts, breathable shirts, because I want to put my AC down. I don't want to use high electricity. At least by 4 degrees, I want to increase it, less consumption of electricity. And he told them, that's because climate change is right outside. It can hit you anytime. He created that urgency. Was actually the urgency then? No. He created that urgency in such a big way that people actually complied in no time. So you have to you have to talk like a leader in such a way that the threat is right outside. It's going to hit you anytime. So that's the leadership quality that people should exhibit. I'll give you another example. Same thing with Mr. Modi. What did he do? In 2015 at COP21 Paris, we articulated SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. At that time, he made sure that 165 countries signed on what is called as the International Solar Alliance. International Solar Alliance. How did he do it? I mean, he's coming from a country like India with least bit of emissions. But he managed to pull everybody and said, sign up. Everybody signed up. Why? Because he made it look like an urgent thing. If you don't sign up the International Solar Alliance, then climate change is going to really hit us very bad. So the point is, create the urgency. Let your organizations know your agenda is important. And that will happen only when you behave like a leader, when you seriously own up, the security part, and when you conduct regular drills. Like a soldier. I'll give an example. Sometimes I think that, in war situations, who are the heroes? During war, who are the heroes? The soldiers. During COVID, who were the heroes? Doctors. But now, in vulnerable times, when cyber attacks are so imminent and so many, you are the heroes. CISOs are the heroes. Yes or no? You don't want to accept it? You are the heroes and you believe you are. You know what is the advantage you have when compared to doctors and soldiers? They die. They get martyred. Will you get martyred? No, you won't die. The advantage is that you are heroes who don't die. So your role is very unique. Your role is very important. Only when you believe your role is very important to transform the nation, make it absolutely robust. Manage your critical infrastructure, manage your processes, integrate your processes, people, technology, and stay rooted there. You'll have hundreds of case studies, and India can seriously move forward as one of the best nations that has kept its integrity intact. Integrity intact. For instance, I remember when I travel any part of the world, they ask me this question. They say, ma'am, how is it possible? In 2008, the financial depression, you guys did well. Any kind of, subprime crisis, you're doing well. Why? That's because our people are heroes. They maintained our banking system rock solid. So this is how we have to maintain and manage everything. So consider yourself to be heroes, only with capes and no bullets. So take India forward, and I'd be really glad to work with you. If you have anything very important, interesting to be taken to the highest leadership of the country, consider me in. Thank you very much, and God bless.